Good morning to all participants and welcome to the Edu series, the grand finale of our Edu series with Food Techie Sherpa. And the grand finale Food Techie Sherpa is with Dr. Tenya Rocks on the topic which is of interest to everyone on nutritional psychiatry. So before I hand over the session to you, I would like to give you some information on what is this Food Techie Sherpa, FSTI Mumbai and Chamber of Advancement. So this series, AU series was started by AFSTI's Mumbai chapter somewhere at the beginning of the year. We decided that we will have only 12 sessions with the top-notch Food Techie Sherpa, and this is the last session in association with Chamber of Advancement of Small and Medium Businesses. The Chamber aims in promoting, supporting these small and medium scale industries from finance to directions on how to scale up. And the AFSTI is acts like a bridge between the academia, professionals, the industry, and try to map the requirements of both all the three segments from the science and technology perspective. So thank you so much, Dr. Tania, Dr. Rox, for accepting to be our grand finale. I don't think we would have had a better grand finale, for Teki Sherpa than you. So some points to remember that we will be taking question and answer at the end. So whatever are your questions, please type it in the chat box, so which will be taken during the end. If we are not able to answer any question, we will take that question and maybe we will reply to you over subsequently. Uh, we will be, Dr. Ross will be speaking on nutritional psychiatry. And before I give introduction of Dr. Rox, let me just tell you about the part of the AFSTI Mumbai. AFSTI Mumbai is 50 plus years chapter, probably one of the first chapters of when AFSTI was established in Mysuru in the CFTRI campus. And our mission is, as I said, regulator, academia, students, and industry being let's say, a catalyst, to bridge the gap between these segments. Many of you, this series was started for students and then student for the what does AFSTA do for students. So we support student on their professional development, on networking. We support on startups, MSME. We also have mentorship program. We give academic guidance. We have awards, various student awards programs through various competitions. We also have IPL. The IPL is not the cricket IPL, but the product development IPL. And then we also organize number of conferences. And for the student, there are special discounts given at the conferences organized or partnered by AFSTI. When it comes to Mumbai chapter, we have IFCON and IFCOST events. We have various regulatory summits. We partner with FI, Annapurna, US Chickpea Council, US SAC Council, and dairy and other segments. We have various nutritional weeks, World Food Day, World Food Safety Day, and we do number of celebrations of every activity associated with the food domain. So for students, this is for you that we are having what we call as Kumbh Mela of Food Scientists and Technologists happening here in Mumbai from 19 to 21st December. On 18th, we have a pre-conference exclusively for students where we are going to give career guidance to them in terms of where can be the career opportunities, including in the careers in the regulations. We are going to have skill development activity on 18th. So do register. There are only 200 seats and I think only few seats are left. And for the conference, if you want to attend conference, it is happening at DY Patil, Nerul, and we have student discount extended up to 25th December. And you can contact us on these addresses given, including me and our honorary secretary, Dr. Jyoti Gokhale. Feel free to reach out to us, Dr. Ritesh, the numbers are shared here. Please do attend. You will not get such a treasure of science and technology anywhere, exclusively dedicated to science and technology. And go to our website, do student registration. It's at a very nominal cost of 800 rupees for a year, and you get all these benefits from the AFSTI Mumbai chapter. Right. So let me come to Dr. Rox, and it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Rox. I mean, I was literally thrilled with your CV, and it was my personal wish to to have talk with you, and looking forward for this talk on psychiatry. So Dr. Rox is an accredited practitioner in dietitian. She is a senior research fellow, founder and director of Food and Mood Academy, Deccan University, and recipient of Outstanding Contribution Award from Dietitians Australia. Her work focuses on integrating nutritional psychiatry research into clinical practice, enhancing global mental health. Dr. Tania has developed and leads the various internationally recognized courses in nutritional psychiatry. Number one, free online course, Food and Mood, improving mental health through diet and nutrition. And she has trained more than 88,000 student or professionals globally. A big round of applause, Dr. Rox. And two postgraduate continuing professional development courses, which is Introduction to Nutritional Psychiatry, Nutri-Psyche, which is accredited by Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists, and Lifestyle Medicine for Mental Health Services, Life and Mind, which is again accredited by the same Royal Australian College of General Practitioners. She has authored more than 50 papers and around 17 book chapters as lead senior author. She has been awarded more than $160,000 in competitive grants as lead, over 970, close to $1 million grant as an associate, and with her work attracting over 800,000 dollars in philanthropic funds. She has delivered over 150 keynote presentations and workshop in Australia and globally. So it's really my pleasure to welcome you, Dr. Rox, and all ears to you for the fantastic talk on nutritional psychiatry, a topic which is new to all of us. So over to you, Dr. Rox. Yeah, Dr. Rox, you can share your screen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hear
Oh,
you.
wonderful. Sorry, it's been so many different issues, so I was worried that you can't hear me. I do apologize that my camera is not working today. It's very unfortunate, so you'll just see my photo. Thank you very much, ma'am, for a wonderful introduction. I clearly send you my long bio, not the short version, but I do appreciate such a wonderful introduction. And thank you to all the organizers for having me here today. So before we go any further, I also would like to thank you to wonderful Professor Dr. Subhadra Mandalika, who my dear friend, and who's the reason I know basically people, wonderful people of Mumbai. I also would like to say thank you to Nutrition Society of India, Mumbai chapter, and the LSI Institute Mumbai for having me in Mumbai in January 2024. But Dr. Subhadra Mandalika is one of the most beautiful humans in the world. So I really cherish our friendship. But anyway, let's go and talk about today. So I've been introduced. We don't need to talk about me, but I do want to say a couple words about my research center. So I come to you from the Food and Mood Research Center at Deakin University. We part of School of Medicine, and we pioneering research in nutritional psychiatry. As part of the center, I establish and lead Food and Mood Academy. And the role of the academy is to bring Food and Mood Center research to life through accessible, practical, and meaningful education. So what is nutritional psychiatry, you might ask? So nutritional psychiatry is research which focused on developing and evaluating nutritional approaches to the prevention and treatment of various mental and brain disorders and also their comorbidities. We also focus on application of evidence-based nutritional approaches in treatment of mental and brain disorders. But we also work a lot in clinical space, in public health, in policy, and in advocacy. If you'd like to follow our work, I really encourage you to connect with us on social media. We have very active Instagram and LinkedIn accounts. So if you'd like to follow the latest research in nutritional psychiatry, please connect with us. So what we're gonna do today? So today we don't have all that much time. Nutritional psychiatry built a lot of evidence in the last 10 to 15 years. So I can talk for a long time, but today we only have under an hour. So I will cover some of the links between diet and mental and brain health across the life stages. I also talk about some of the biological pathways which impact mental health and might be modulated through diet. And I also analyze the role of diet and gut-related treatment in managing mental health conditions. So a lot of my talk today going to be related to depression. As you know, depression is one of the most common mental health disorders. So a lot of research coming from depression space. But we understand that many other mental and brain disorders follow a very similar pathways. So what do we already know in this space? Well, as I mentioned before, over the last decade, we built a substantial evidence connecting diet quality to the risk of developing common mental health disorders such as depression. So study shows that in earlier life, diet quality of mothers during pregnancy might have a say in behavioral symptoms of children. So it starts right here before we even born. For example, this study shows us that what expectant mothers eat during pregnancy actually link to behavioral and neurodevelopmental outcomes of children. This is very important message, but of course very careful one, because we don't need to put any more pressure or any more guilt on stigma on expectant mothers, but to understand that what mothers eating during pregnancy impacts not only physical health, but also mental health of offspring is very important message. As we grow and during adulthood, higher quality diet can actually decrease our chances of developing depression by about 30%. This specific randomized control, sorry, not randomized control trial, this systematic review and meta-analysis reviewed several different diets. And today, look, I will refer to Mediterranean diet because it's been studied quite a lot and have been showing very good evidence in terms of both preventing and treating common mental health disorders. But it doesn't have to be specifically Mediterranean diet. Any diet which is similarly to Mediterranean diet, high in fruit, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, with a good amount of high quality protein and fats, and simultaneously low in highly processed foods with a lot of added sugar, salt, and animal fats, shows very similar results. As you can see in this review, you can go and have a look closer. They reviewed quite a few different diets. And although Mediterranean showed the best outcomes in terms of preventing depression, many other dietary styles are also very effective. This relationship between diet and mental health exists across life course, but also across different countries, regions, and nations. Studies from all over the world again and again show us this positive correlation between the quality of diet and mental health outcomes. What's important to note here that this is often independent of factors such as education, income, body weight, or body size. It's very important message because at least in Western countries such as Australia, we for a long time link diet to body size, which is very stigmatizing message. So when we talk more generally about mental health, this is much more inclusive message. So in your current practice or in future practice, if you're a student, I really encourage you to remember this, to link diet to the overall well-being and not specific body size or metabolic outcomes. So this is very interesting that observational, cross-sectional, and prospective studies consistently show this dose-response relationship between food and mood. A healthier diet, which can come in various shapes, but distinguishedly high in fruit, vegetables, whole grains and beans and legumes with high or good quality proteins and fats, and low in all these Western style food really supports our mental health. When it's come to treatment options, we understand that for treatment of many mental health conditions, we can use pharmacotherapy, psychotherapy, but we also can use lifestyle changes, including improvements in diets. And right now, for example, in Australia, by Royal Australian New Zealand College of Psychiatry, lifestyle changes, including diet, are recommended as a first-line therapy for at least treatment of depression and other mood disorders. And in the last few years, we actually have had quite a few dietary interventions which focused on depression measures and quality of life as primary outcomes. Most of them use, or all of them, use various types of Mediterranean diet, and all showed beneficial impact on depression, on other mental and cognitive symptoms, and on quality of life. This large systematic review also showed us that dietary interventions can significantly reduce depressive symptoms and also are more beneficial when they delivered by nutrition professionals. So someone with background in nutrition or in diet. It's quite important to remember because we as nutritionists and dietitians and food specialists, we have a lot of knowledge about food, and we can use this knowledge to help people to support and manage their mental health. Very recently, we had another meta-analysis showing that Mediterranean diet is the best in elevating depressive symptoms in adults. This systematic review gathered evidence from 5 randomized controlled trials, including over 1,500 participants, and it showed significant reduction, particularly among young and middle-aged adults living with major depression or mild to moderate depressive symptoms. So this is quite important to understand that that diet along with other lifestyle factors can be very useful in treating mood symptoms, behavioral symptoms, and also depressive symptoms. We will review the specific treatment approaches later in the talk, but right now I do want us to talk a little bit about biological pathways which impact our mental health and might be modulated through diet. There's several biological mechanisms that explain how diet impacts our mental health. And as I mentioned before, although a lot of the research has focused to date on depression, it is now understood that other conditions like anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, or other psychotic disorders share very similar biological pathways. I will highlight a few of these, but if you want to have a further read, this review by Wolf Max, my colleague from Food and Mood Center, it's a couple years old now, but it's very accessible read, which really gathers most of the known mechanisms and also provides evidence up to date on how these mechanisms actually moderate and support our mental health. So I will talk just a little bit here about neurogenesis. So it's very interesting that in the past, the established belief was that adult brain could not really generate new brain cells. However, we do understand now that adult brain, particularly the hippocampus, generates around 700 new neurons every day. So this regenerative process gives us a lot of hope in managing of many brain and mental conditions. And we also understand that diet, along with exercise and stress, could both positively and negatively influence our neurogenesis or neurogenesis. Animal studies show us quite strongly through evidence that levels of neurogenesis, or that ability of our body to produce, our brain to produce new neurons, can be modulated through diet, with Western style diets show to impair the brain ability or hippocampus ability to produce new cells. And it also impacts our cognitive performance quite a lot. So hippocampus does play a role in learning, in memory, in mood, in stress regulation. So it's one of the few areas in the brain where this neurogenesis happens all the time. So it's important to understand that diet has actual impact on this. Observational studies in humans did show us that connections, between hippocampal volume and diet. For example, this one of the first studies in humans, which was led by Professor Felice Jacka, who's a director of our center, and it showed that poor diet is also linked to the volume of hippocampus. Here, people were followed up for 4 years from baseline to then 4 years follow-up. This study was done in an older group, so everyone was pretty much older than 65. And it's particularly important to understand the impact in older age, because we know the current increase in neurodegenerative disorders happens all around the world. So see here, as you see, right from a baseline, people with poor diet already had a low volume, low hippocampus volume. In 4 years follow-up with aging process, this volume decreased even more, much more significantly than those who followed good diet. And when I say good diet, I mean that diet high in plant foods, fruit, vegetables, grains, legumes, and low in food with a lot of additives, with a lot of animal proteins, sugar, and salt. We understand from interventional research that low quality diet impairs hippocampus dependent learning and memory. This study was done in humans, and it's looked for causal links. It's examined how Western diet, high in saturated fat and sugars, affects learning, memory, and awareness in healthy adults. And here, participants were assigned to eat either a high-fat, sugary breakfast or healthier options for just 4 days. And then the researchers ran some tests on learning, memory, and hunger awareness. And what was interesting that those on the high-fat diet had significant declines in learning and memory and were less sensitive to hunger cues as well. And I remind you, it was just 4 days. That's all what it took. Their blood sugar levels spike more, correlating with that poor memory performance. So it's really important to remember that we don't need to wait for long to see harmful impact on our brain. We recently also completed a randomized controlled trial where we looked at the effect of probiotic fermented dairy products versus placebo in healthy women over 8 weeks. So over here, we just thought we'll look the importance or test the importance of fermented dairy, basically yogurt. And the study ran for 8 weeks. Because we haven't published the study, I can't show you all of the results, but I need to tell you that we discovered a very notable difference in functional connectivity between left hippocampus and frontal pole, as well as changes in hippocampal volume. This connectivity is a very important marker of cognitive processes, including memory, decision-making, and emotional regulation, our mood stabilization. So these changes correlated also with the increases in the beneficial bacteria in gut microbiome, which is quite interesting. I do apologize. I needed to cover the results because we just not published the study yet. So again, interesting. Just a small yogurt serve every day for 8 weeks and notable changes in brain function. Very important. And remember how I was talking that we're going to review just a few important mechanisms. So here I want to very briefly talk about inflammation because we're going to talk about inflammation later in my presentation. So around 25% of all people with mental health issues experience this chronic inflammation. It has been linked to conditions like depression, but many other mental and brain conditions. Although this idea of inflammation being involved in mental health was controversial in the past, now we do confirm by the evidence from the studies that depression in particular is often connected to that low-grade inflammation and oxidative stress. High levels of inflammation are also linked with a poor response to treatment, so modifying diet to reduce inflammation could be a very helpful strategy for treatment. Let's have a look now at gut microbiota. So the link between gut microbiota and diet and mental health really evolved in the last few years. And it's due to that community of bacteria and other microorganisms in our digestive system. We understand that due to this so-called microbiota gut-brain axis, or this communication system that links our gut or digestive system, the bacteria living in our gut, all this microbiota, and our brain. And this continuous conversation happens through various signals. We have these signals constantly moving from the brain to the gut and from the gut to the brain. And this helps to regulate our digestive system, our mood, and even overall our mental and brain well-being. Throughout our lives, our gut and the brain communicate with each other. Central nervous system influences our digestive system, and our enteric nervous system, so gut nerve system, through the body's automatic processes, also signaling back to our brain. And this communication happens through stress response system known as hypothalamic pituitary adrenal or HPA axis. This interaction works through other various pathways, including nerve signaling, hormones, immune system, and all other ways our body processes energy. Disruption in this gut microbiota can contribute to mental health disorders, and diet plays a very large role in shaping our microbial community. There's, of course, many other factors that can impact our gut microbiome, our age and environment and health status, and many others. But overall, dietary patterns have perhaps the most profound impact on both gut microbiome composition and on host health, including various aspects of metabolic and immune function. This diagram is great, but of course, very much simplified illustration of the impact dietary styles and specific dietary components have on our health. A whole food diet, such as Mediterranean, but it doesn't have to be Mediterranean. Remember, long as it's got all these wonderful components, long as it's rich in fiber, micronutrients, high quality fats, and polyphenols and other phytochemicals, support a very diverse and balanced gut microbiome. It also helps to maintain optimal production of microbial metabolites, for example, short-chain fatty acids, which are essential for maintaining gut lining and overall gut health. So we understand that these metabolites, such as fatty acid butyrate, act as energy source for gut cells and play a really important role in regulating inflammation and gut immunity. They protect our intestinal lining over here and support gut and metabolic health. However, with Western diets, high in ultra-processed foods that often, not always, but often, is high in salt and additives, very high in animal protein, animal fat, and other low-quality fats, and also high in sugar and low in fiber, and many other beneficial dietary components, which quite often not in foods like this, greatly impacts on the diversity of the gut microbiota and this shift alters our bacterial function in our gut by reducing the ability of gut bacteria to produce short-chain fatty acids, and it's linked to compromised barrier integrity, so we can get some leaks and all other issues happening at our gut lining, and increase in development of various chronic inflammatory diseases. So it's very important. I hope this illustration been helpful in understanding a little bit more on the impact. But let's have a look about now brain. Because of that well-established microbiota gut-brain axis, we know that what we eat doesn't just affect our gut. It's also influence our mood, brain, and mental health. And there's several ways that in which diet can influence this communication between the gut and the brain. These interactions happen through various mechanisms, including microbial metabolites. I talk about this, but also many wonderful hormones, immune responses, metabolic processes, and nerve signaling, which constantly happening in our gut. As we just reviewed on the previous slide, a healthy diet can really encourage the growth of beneficial gut microbes and increase production of bioactive compounds like short-chain fatty acids and other metabolites, which are neurotransmitters, for example, serotonin and other gut hormones, which can impact our brain function and behavior either directly by this vagus nerve travel or indirectly. So stimulation of the vagus nerve here, which connects our gut and our brain, one of the more important pathways. So microbial metabolites generated from food digested in our gut or from microbes themselves can really activate this nerve, signaling, sending these constant signals to our brain. When the balance of gut bacteria is disrupted, it can really lead to problems in brain function and trigger neuroinflammation. This imbalance affects several key biological processes, including bile acid metabolism, which plays the role in digestion and brain health, as well as intestinal permeability, often called leaky gut. We talk about that on previous slides. And it really allows harmful substances to enter our bloodstream. Additionally, dysbiosis can cause widespread inflammation. And remember how we talked before that inflammation is really strongly linked to depression and other mental health conditions. And this inflammation can also interfere with various metabolic pathways, all of which can contribute to brain dysfunction, mood disorders, and conditions like anxiety and depression. So this overall results in breakdown in this communication, this balanced communication between microbiota, gut, and brain, with potentially long-term effects on both physical and, of course, mental health. All right, let's have a look now with our increased understanding about gut-brain axis. Let's have a look and analyze a bit more the role of diet and gut-related treatment in managing mental health disorders. So, as I mentioned before, gut microbiota and nutrition and gut microbiota and gut microbiome hold a great promise for novel treatment targets in psychiatry. Our growing understanding of the gut-brain axis and its role in psychiatric disorders and pathological presentation of the gut microbiota in many psychiatric conditions, which I just don't have time to review right now, all these provide us with opportunity for novel treatment options. And in the next few minutes, we will discuss some of these, focusing on whole diets and fermented foods. So we're talking to food tech people here, so let's focus on food. All right. So when it's come to whole diets, we discussed with you before that Mediterranean style diet, which is high in vegetables, fruit, grains, legumes, proteins, and with occasional treats, of course, and low in these ultra-processed foods, being most helpful in treatment of particularly depression. So one of the first, or no, sorry, not one of the first, the very first randomized controlled trial, which used Mediterranean diet in treatment of depression, was the SMILES trial, which was led by the director of Food and Mood Center, Professor Felice Jacka. We're going to review this specific trial, but there's many others which been this and many others which been conducted since, all showing beneficial results. But of course, SMILES was the very first asking the question, if I improve my diet, will my mood improve? This specific study used Mediterranean style diet. And before we talk about diet, I can tell you that after 12 weeks of treatment, people who were able to change their diet in the dietary arm significantly improved their depression outcomes as well. So much so that 33% of the dietary arm here went into complete remission. People who received social support, so we had two groups, diet and social support, also improved their mental health, but not at the same rate as people who were in a dietary arm. And here you can see that adherence to the diet, body mass diet we used in the SMILES trial, really showed this dose response relationship in improving mental health symptoms. So I mentioned before that this diet was Mediterranean style diet, but because it was conducted in Australia, we actually adapted this diet to Australian population. For example, we included a little bit more meat than traditionally consumed in Mediterranean diet. Over here, sorry, disregard this link, but if you want to know more about the SMILES diet, please go to our website, which I showed you before. But let's have a look at the principles of the SMILES diet. So very similar to traditional Mediterranean diet, it was really rich in fruit, vegetables, and whole grains. So lots of whole grains, fruit, and vegetables. It also included consumption of dairy. Olive oil was suggested as a main fat. We also recommended people eating legumes and beans. I know that in India, people do love and eat a lot of legumes and beans. Please keep eating them because they are fantastic source of nutrients, of fiber, of polyphenols, and again been shown to be very beneficial for our mental and physical health. We also recommended people consuming red meat, fatty fish, and look at here, we told people to reduce significantly their consumption of extras, all these ultra-processed foods. Let's have a look at specific serves. So we recommended people consuming up to 8 serves of whole grains, around 6 serves of vegetables, around 3 serves of fruit, about 2 serves of dairy. We also suggested people eating nuts every day, legumes and beans 4 times per week, red meat about few times per week as well, because Australians usually eat a lot of red meat, so we needed to adjust our expectations. We also recommended people eat fatty fish, poultry, eggs. As I mentioned before, extra virgin olive oil was the main source of fat with up to 660 millimeters recommended. And we ask people to reduce consumption of extras to about 3 serves per week. Considering that average Australians consume 5 to 7 serves of extra foods per day, this was significant reduction. In terms of serves, you know how here it's fair bit of grains and vegetables. We always say that, of course, it's need to be adjusted based on the needs of the individual. For people who are very active, young, have very hard physical labor, or live in larger bodies, you might need to adjust your serves up. People who are elderly, have a lot of, have mainly sitting work, or do not do much of exercise, of course, probably don't need as many serves. So it's very individualized. Another study I want to show you is the CALM trial. This trial was conducted in our center and also used lifestyle intervention and compared it to psychotherapy. So it was non-inferiority trial, basically conducted to show that lifestyle intervention can be as helpful as psychotherapy in treatment of depressive symptoms. So we ran that during COVID. We started that during COVID, and it's included group session online and in we split people into diet and exercise program or psychotherapy program. And in our lifestyle program, we basically focused on suggesting for people to eat variety of nutritious food, select variety of healthy high fiber food, include good quality fats, limit discretionary foods, those extra or ultra processed foods with high addition of salt and sugar and everything else, and participate in enjoyable physical activity. So the goals look slightly different. If in SMILES trial, we just talk to people about eating, whole foods, here we also talk about eating whole foods, but we presented that slightly differently. So, and this trial, as I mentioned, it's run for 7 weeks over 6 sessions. And what it showed that for the very first time in the world, it's actually showed that lifestyle therapy is as effective as psychological therapy for those at with or at high risk of depression. And we enrolled 182 people in the trial. And why I'm showing that to you, it basically shows that dietary approach can work one-on-one, such as in SMILES trial, but it also can be run in groups, online, and in different styles. As long as you help people to change their diet for the better, it works. Another style of diet which been kind of showing increased interest in treatment, it's ketogenic diet. It's of course diet with a very low consumption of carbohydrates. But so far, we have not had good evidence that this diet could be used in psychiatric conditions. It's of course been used to treat children with and people with epilepsy for a long time, drug-resistant epilepsy. And this smaller pilot study also showed that ketogenic diet can be helpful in treating schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. But one thing to remember that ketogenic diet is quite limiting and restrictive diet. So people usually need a lot of support when they follow ketogenic diet because you basically need to exclude all fruit, vegetables, or eat very, very little of fruit and vegetables and whole grains and legumes, and you need to eat a lot of fat and a lot of animal-based protein. So there's no strong evidence right now, but we at the center conducting one of the first in the world trials in ketogenic diet. So I probably in a year, I will be able to report with a bit more evidence for you. Next quick discussion I would like to do is to talk about fermented foods. So fermented foods, of course, being used, fermentation is one of the oldest ways to preserve food. And some of the amazing facts here, it's one of the first evidence of fermentation, and it's mostly wine and beer making, was detected during New Stone Age, so around 12,000 years ago. So as soon as humans stop chasing large animals for food and start growing food, they started fermenting food as well. And we know that all around the world, people usually start fermenting with wine and beer, but then move into bread and vegetables. So in the last few years, we had increase, particularly in Western countries, in interest to fermented food. But very first links to well-being of fermented food were done by Nobel Prize winner, Ukrainian chemist Ilya Ilyich Mechnikov. So in history, sometimes people tell you he's a Russian chemist. He was not Russian chemist. He was Ukrainian chemist. He was born in Ukraine, just like I was. and he was born in a little village near Kharkiv, about 200 kilometers away from the little town where I was born. So he was Ukrainian chemist who first saw the link between fermented dairy of Bulgarian peasants and their incredible well-being. So he first proposed that bacteria in fermented dairy might be beneficial for our health. And since then, look, we really established a lot of benefits of fermented foods. We understand that fermented foods increase nutrient availability, it supports our gut health, it supports cardiovascular health, it also provides us with immune support, and also might be beneficial for our mental health. It's because that essentially fermented foods does have a lot of live bacteria, including beneficial gut bacteria. Next two studies were randomized controlled trials which used fermented food. This first study was conducted in America and compared high fiber diet and diet with fermented food and their impact on gut microbiome, on inflammation, and also on gut microbial diversity. Remember how we talk about that healthy gut microbiota is diverse gut microbiota, and we also talk about inflammation. So what this study showed that fermented food was excellent in increasing microbial diversity, which is very important for gut health, but we also understand to mental health because of the microbiota gut-brain axis. And it's also significantly decrease markers of inflammation. People who consume diet high in fiber, we know it's great for you as well. They actually show the increase in microbiome function. But overall, we see that fermented foods can be valuable addition in terms of supporting our gut and our immune health. This specific study coming to you from our colleagues and friends in Ireland now, in University of Cork. And they used two types of psychobiotic. They call that psychobiotic diet and controlled diet. Psychobiotic diet was high in fruit and vegetables and grains and other helpful components, plus included some fermented food. People who went on a controlled diet followed Irish guidelines for healthy eating, which also include all the wonderful and beneficial foods, but don't have focus on fermented food. And look what happened here. After completion of the study, people who consume food, fermented food, had significant reduction in their perceived stress compared to people who just ate healthy food or healthy diet. So for us, people who work in food, it's very important to understand the importance of actual food. And hear me out here, because we understand that Western style of food preparation and industrial food preparation comes up with new invention for food all the time. So for us to keep up with this new novel approaches to eating, if we continue telling people you need to eat your fruit and vegetables and grains, this message can get a little bit old-fashioned. So, for example, we can use fermented food as something novel, something interesting, but also something highly beneficial for mental health in our recommendations. Today, I don't have much time to focus on probiotics. That's, of course, live bacteria, which also been shown to be beneficial for mental health. Prebiotics, that special type of fiber, which also could be used in treatment of mental health conditions, but doesn't have as much evidence as, for example, probiotics. We also have nutraceuticals and phytoceuticals and fecal microbial transplant. All these methods show promising um, abilities and promising therapeutic benefits for people living with mental health conditions. But this discussion is for another day. So right now we know that we can use food for treatment of many depressive conditions and mental health conditions. So if you like to learn more, I welcome you to join our free online course. It's been running for a few years now. It's offered to you through Future Learn. When you try to enroll, if it's asked you to pay money, you don't have to. Remember that. You just need to click at the different box there. You don't have to pay money to participate in this course. So I hope you will enroll in it. For people who currently treating patients, I invite you to participate in our Introduction to Nutritional Psychiatry course. It is paid course, so you will need to pay to enroll into this course. But here you get credit points from the Royal Australian New Zealand College of Psychiatry, and we also have the professional development course in lifestyle medicine. If you're interested in that, it's a fantastic course which also received a lot of praises from clinicians who participate in it. I'm going to be wrapping up. I would like to thank my wonderful team, Professor Felice Jacka, who is the director of our Food and Mood Center, and my colleagues Megan and Philae, who work with me all the time and every day, and also many collaborates, many wonderful colleagues and friends who support my work over the years. If you want to connect with us, this is our numbers to reach us or to connect with us on social media. Thank you very much for your today's attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Wow, that was really great. Uh, I request all participants to post their questions in the chat box so that we can take them one on one. And this was incredible, Dr. Rox. And before I start with questions from the participants, is my personal question to you is about Indians use a lot of spices, and these
Yes.
spices are I mean, we say there are three different level of spices. One is like, chili based, in which we have
Mm-hmm.
the cuisine, which is with red chili and green chili. Then we have
Mm-hmm.
pepper based, and we have the spices which are multi ingredients, mix of multiple spices. So
Yes.
have you, so do you think there is an impact of these spices, use of spices on let's say psychology? I'm not talking
Yes.
but
It's a very good question, ma'am. So, and I understand your question. You're asking about the impact of herbs and spices on mental health.
yeah.
Although there are no um, many studies which look at direct impact. I did mention there's some nutraceuticals and phytoceuticals which been studied for their impact. We understand that many herbs and spices are, of course, very high in polyphenols or other phytochemicals, those specific compounds which plants use as their defense mechanisms. They're usually very powerful antioxidants. So when humans consume them, it's have a very similar antioxidant impact on humans as well. So there's curcumin, turmeric powder being studied with some very interesting evidence. But of course, we do need a little bit more studies to talk about that a little bit more. Currently, the Canadian group, so it's a I'm trying to remember. It's a Canadian society. They have a set of recommendations when it's come to phytoceuticals and nutraceuticals. So they available online. If you just Google them, I'm sure you'll find the guidelines, and they specify 15 various of nutraceuticals and phytoceuticals which could be used in adjunctive treatment of depression and other brain and mental health conditions.
Wonderful. That's so nice. I guess and
Mm,
when we say in India, we have three different types of meals. What we call it
mm,
sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic, which means that one is which balances you, which cools you. The second
mhm.
makes you proactive, and the third one which makes you angry. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that three different categories of food. And
Mhm,
we have questions coming in, so I will ask some questions. So
mhm,
so the first question is from Mr. Jagan Mohan, and he says,
mhm.
Doctor, can you share the bibliography of the PPT?
Yes, I will send you. Okay, I'll send you. Okay, I will send you the reference. Yes, I can't do it right now, but I don't have it right now here on the slides, but I'll email that and to your team, and if you can please share with participants.
Yeah, there's some of the terms that you have used as psychobiotic diet is something completely new, and although it's not in the regulation, but that's something that that can be used to explain the concept.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm, mm, mm.
great. So the second question is from Ratna Patnaik, and Ratna says that she's asking that please give some examples of pre and probiotic rich menus so that we can tell our
Mhm.
clients.
It's an excellent question. Very treatment focused. I like that. So again, there's a lot of various fermented foods, but you will need to adjust them to your cultural preference. I recently was presenting to World Health Organization Ukrainian branch. So it's my people, I'm from Ukraine. So we talk about fermented food, and we found many culturally appropriate fermented foods in Ukraine as well. So in general, in Australia, when we talk about fermented foods, we talk about fermented vegetables and fermented dairy. So stuff like yogurt and kefir or fermented milk. So I'm not quite sure what the exact alternatives are, but I'm pretty sure in Indian cuisine, yogurt is used as well, isn't it? So natural yogurt, which was fermented with addition of bifidobacteria or lactobacteria, is a fantastic example of probiotic-rich diet. Prebiotics is basically type of fiber which are selectively utilized by beneficial gut bacteria. So majority of food which are high in fiber would have some prebiotic in them. But most often we recommend foods such as onions and garlic, apples, oats, artichokes. They have a lot of prebiotics. But in general, if you recommend, for example, dish made out of legumes, with lots of vegetables and yogurt on top, as we would eat sometimes, curry with a bit of yogurt. That's your probiotic and prebiotic rich meal. I
Great.
hope that answers your question.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Then we have question. Okay, we have two questions. One is from Mr. Jagan Mohan and then Bhagesh. I'm just checking, sequentially. So Jagan Mohan is asking, we have similar diet like Mediterranean diet, whether there is any comparison study done with the Indian diet. And
Hmm.
Bhagesh is asking, by changing the diet, can it be possible to change or control the hormonal problems?
Okay, so that's two different questions.
Correct.
Well, in terms of comparative diets, with from Indian, Indian style cuisine. I personally don't know. This is something for wonderful Indian scientists to study. That would be excellent to make a comparative study. But I don't know right now of any randomized controlled trials conducted using Indian style diet. Look, it doesn't mean it's not there. I just don't know about them. In terms of changing diet, can be possible to change or control hormonal problems. Well, we talk about diet and mental health, but when you saw from, diagrams and from our discussion around gut microbiota and impact of diet on gut microbiota, we saw that um, healthy diet have very positive effect on gut microbiota and can stabilize and balance many various mechanisms and various activities which happened in our gut. So I'm sure there's a way of support our hormonal health through diet, but I'm not a specialist here, so I'm probably not gonna comment any further in terms of hormones.
Okay, I guess yes. I mean, they are interlinked. So definitely, as you rightly said, there would be definitely impact on the hormonal balances as we change the diet. And a similar question, which was also in my mind, that is how much is the environment factor related,
Mm,
you know, in along with food in behavior practices in our mental
mm,
health. So, what is the role of environment? Do you see any role of environment
mm.
and food in making our behavior, changing our behavioral practices?
Absolutely. We know that, look, we just talk a little bit about diet, but we understand that our mental health, our mood, and our behavior is very determined by many factors, including our genes, our physical state, our environment, many social factors, many psychological and physical factors. So, of course, we understand that environment have a great impact on our mental health. For example, in our discussions around lifestyle, we talk quite often about how important exposure to green spaces or blue spaces is for mental health. So how important our environment, how important it is for stabilizing our mood. So even when we live in very stressful environments, if we live in a large cities, like when I travel to Mumbai, I never seen a busier city in my life. So of course, living in such a busy, stressful environment will create additional stress. This is why we always recommend, along with diet, try to address managing stress, your sleep, exercise, breathing practices, meditation, mindful practices, and all other activities which can help us to calm down a little bit. I hope it answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And then the next question is from Ms. Shalini, and she would like to know what is exactly the vegetarian diet. Do we get enough protein from the vegetarian diet as we are pure vegetarians? So no meat, no fish, no.
Yeah, that's very important. Of course, if you consume dairy, dairy is a good source of protein. But if you're vegans, that's, we always talk about legumes and beans as a good source of protein. Also foods such as tofu, for example, or other, I'm not sure if tofu really available in India. Probably let's not talk about that. But yeah, we're talking about legumes and beans. But if you're worried about your protein amount, and if you're consuming enough, I would recommend talking to your healthcare provider and talking with dietitian or practicing accredited nutritionist, because this is highly individual. We can't really put the blanket recommendations for everyone. So in general, paying attention to legumes and beans and whole grains, it's great for protein, but talk to your healthcare provider.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you so much. The next question is from Shashireka. Can we study only on the consumption of chocolates in
Not I work in Australia, so my evidence are from around the world, but I don't have specific, studies on Indian children. I do understand that high sugar consumption is not particularly good for children. We always worry when children eat too much sugar, what they don't eat. If they consume too much chocolate, they might not be eating enough fruit or not consume enough dairy. Yeah, so in general, I would not focus on one food or one type of food as a risk factor for any disorder, be it neurodevelopmental disorder or anything else. It's all about whole dietary picture.
Okay. So it seems, Dr. Ross, that you have many, let's say, maybe supporting partners to do some research from the Indian perspective, and
It does sounds like that, ma'am. Very, very a lot of interesting questions.
yeah. Then Dr. Deepa, she's asking about dieting in India is different from other countries. So for migrants to other countries, that rapid change in the environment. Oh, sorry, it's the same question about the changes. Yeah, so
Hmm.
because of the migrants, the changes in the environment, is it impacting their behavior pattern?
Well, in terms of behavior, I'm not sure. When we migrate, it's not an easy process altogether. It could be quite stressful to change your country, to move away from your family or friends. We also understand that in terms of gut microbiota, for example, if we go back to microbiota gut-brain axis and look from gut microbiota perspective, we understand that our environment, our ethnicity, and where we live would have impact on our gut microbiota. Previous studies showed that people who move and migrate usually change their gut microbiota as well. And these changes would depend very much on what you actually doing when you migrated. If you migrated to Western country, are you following healthy diet or you following unhealthy diet? Where you live in, are you exercising, what's your stress levels, and many, many other factors. So in general, we understand that changes and eating different food, of course, can have impact on you, on your behavior, on your mood, and on your mental health. But whether that's going to be positive or negative will depend on, other environmental factors.
Great. Thank you so much. And then we have one question, probably the last question from Dr. Kondekar. Let me
Mhm.
give you an introduction of Dr. Kondekar. He's a doctor in naturopathy, and he is also senior advisor with FSTI Mumbai chapter.
Mhm.
Multiple, let's say, award holder, and a very, very prominent person when it comes to naturopathy. So his
Wonderful.
question to you is on millets, that what is your take on role of millets in nutritional psychiatry?
Well, again, so in my understanding, millets, it's a type of grain, which is, I know that it's not consumed a lot in Australia, but it's of course consumed in many other countries. Look, as other grains, if I'm understanding the question correctly, as other grains, millets have a fantastic nutritional profile. It's usually I don't know personally, but I could, suggest that it would have a great source. It would be a great source of vitamin B, of protein, of fiber. So as part of dietary variety, I'm sure millets is okay. In terms of studying millets specifically, I have no idea.
Okay, great. So I guess, so again, there's a Dr. Dipashri's question on environment. So we will skip that because twice we have talked on the environmental part because it's on the rapid behavior again and the environment. We have
Mhm.
question on from Dr. Santosh. I mean, Mr.
Mhm.
Santosh, is there any particularly types of fiber, soluble,
Mhm.
soluble, which that take part in prebiotic related to this topic, which helps in mental health?
Yeah, that's very interesting question. So when we talk about fiber, we talk much more than just soluble or insoluble right now. There's more research being done in the last few years, which helps us understand that it's not just level of solubility in fiber, so whether it, can be soluble or not. It's also way the fiber is able to ferment in our gut, because our microbiota, of course, consume the fiber we eat as humans, because we as humans, we don't metabolize fiber. It passes through our digestive system and ferments in our gut, basically, and is consumed by gut microbiota, creating that fermentation process. So we, in terms of impact on gut microbiota, we look at fiber in terms of its ability to ferment. So we talk about prebiotics, and type of prebiotic fiber from onion, garlic, and apples and oats, and other types of prebiotic fiber, which is more beneficial or have been showing beneficial impact for our health when it's consumed by gut microbiota. So basically, I think I'm not sure how else I can talk about this without going into 2 hour topic on fermented fibers.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And this has been really great. If anyone wants to give any feedback on this session, they can unmute and give your feedback. We have Shubha Prada, who is our Vice President, and Dr. Prakash Kondekar, sir. May I request you to unmute and give your feedback?
Hi, thank you so much, Chinmay, for giving me the opportunity. I've been hooked from the minute that Dr. Tetyana started speaking and chatting on WhatsApp with Subhadra ma'am, who has been appreciating all the great work that you do, Dr. Tetyana. Thank you so much for taking the time out, addressing our students here. It's really been what should I say? It's been a seeding of great thoughts, which we hope will drive both nutrition practice as well as nutrition research. Much of what you say resonates very strongly with us from the traditional Indian food consumption principles. So I think a lot of scope for this area, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and please send my warmest regards to dear Professor Subhadra. My warmest wishes to her. I
Yeah,
hope
ma'am,
she's
she's
well.
probably closer to you. I think she's still in the
Yeah,
New
she's
Zealand.
in New
Yeah,
Zealand,
yeah.
isn't she? Yeah,
She
yeah, yeah.
is,
I'll
yes.
email her. I'll email her. I'm so
Yes.
happy she's with her family. It's, yeah, very nice. Thank you so much.
And after
Thank you,
Dr.
ma'am.
Prakash Kondekar, sir, I request Dr. Shashank Bhalkar, sir, to give his input, to give his remarks. Yes, Dr. Kondekar, sir. Sir, you are on mute.
Yeah, it was nice session, madam. And I also learned many things, because since last 60 years, I have been using fermented food, and sometimes it works for the mental health also. And that's what I think this would be one of the thing we should go into detail, and millet particularly, and use of millet. Yeah, thank you.
That's wonderful. I'm very pleased to hear that. Thank you so much for kind words, Doctor, and for your attention to my presentation. I'm really happy to see that from your great practice, you agree with fermented foods and with evidence. That's very good. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
The Dr. Shashank Bhalkar, sir. So, Dr. Rock, he is again senior advisor with AFST, and he is also executive director with PF India, which is the Protein and Nutrition Society of India. So, Dr. Shashank, sir, may I request for your remarks?
Thank you, Chinmay, for giving me that opportunity. Dr. Tetanya rocks. It was a wonderful lecture, and you explained the subject in very simple terms so that students will understand. And I personally learned a lot from that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It's very kind words. Thank you. It's great. Look, I really love Indian people because of Professor Subhadra, and I love the warmth you demonstrated when you received me in Mumbai and your interest. I just think it's so good, and I'm very thankful to the organizers for the wonderful opportunity. I really hope that students learn a lot today, and I look forward to our future activities.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And definitely you will be involved in multiple topic, activities, because this is something which is probably we as Indians know that from the Ayurveda side and multiple things, but you have put that into the curriculum and education part, and this is something really great. And I'm sure that with the questions which are being asked, we'll have joint, opportunities of doing research on Indian food, at a larger level.
It would be fantastic. It would be fantastic.
And on behalf of all students, organizers, I don't think we would have had such a fantastic grand finale of our session, AU series sessions from, we call that as Food Techie Sherpas, which means that you are the expert in your field and you are teaching. So we covered number of topics from in last 10 months on, right from designing of a food factory to nutrition to technology, new technologies, nanotechnology, and number of things which probably was not available from a regular curriculum point of view. So we tried to cover the topics which were out of the curriculum. And with you, Dr. Rox, it's end of our series. And but definitely we come with new topics, new areas of activities for the next year. And definitely we will involve you again soon. So thank you, participants. Thank you, Dr. Rox, and thank you everyone for attending it. And what we have promised was the students who attended more than 6 sessions, they will get certificate from AFSTI, and you will hear us from us very soon. So thank you. Please be member with AFSTI, and we promise you that you will get much more than what you expect. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chinmay. Good day.
Good day. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Apologies. Thank you. Sorry, my camera did not work. Thank you so much, ma'am. All the best. Bye.